Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Hello everyone, welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Joanna Tabaku. And she is here to tell us about the new school that she's opening up in San Diego that is for social emotional development and personal growth of elementary school kids. I think that is such a cool concept. So Joanna, tell us about your new school.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me. This is such a pleasure, such an honor. Yes, I'm super excited. So you just saying, talking about the school, just introducing it makes me really, really excited about it. So, there's a huge gap between where the world is going and where education is right now. And kids are not being taught at the speed at which the world is progressing, whether it's technology, AI, or just development in general. And more people are noticing that the gap is very much in what they are being taught. The academics are not supported by anything else. And personal growth and personal development are something that many people come across when they're 30, 40, 50, or even older. And it makes a huge difference. And having personal development in your life and personal growth aspect actually makes you leap so much faster. So if we have this at a young age, starting at 5 or even earlier, how wonderful would that be? Where would we be as the society, as the world, as the planet, if the kids were able to learn things like emotional regulation, things like how to understand themselves, their emotions, the way they act, and also others, and then being able to interact? What if kids were taught to follow their passion, not to just follow something that someone pre-designed for them? What if they were told that this is great and to act from faith, not from fear? And so many more things. And so this is what the school is designed to do. It's there to really hone in on those things that many of us in the personal development world are learning from mentors, coaches, and all these people who have been doing such a great job at helping us fast forward, some of the successes in our lives and to be fulfilled. And so the school is going to bring three pivotal pillars to the kids' development to help them thrive. And these are happy, healthy, and wealthy.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I think that's so cool to bring that down for the elementary school level. And so, how did you what made you want to get into this?
So, well, interestingly enough, frustration. As a mom of twins, as any mom, experiences frustration on a daily basis. And the frustration is not necessarily with their kids, because once you understand it, it's actually frustration with you being able to handle what the kids want, or being able to manage or give them the best. So, my frustration was with my kids asking me to be on screen a lot. And I thought, why am I so frustrated? It's the 21st century. Kids are, this is what it is. I mean, we are leading our lives from those little devices in our hands, right? Everything's there. It's not a phone anymore. So I was following that thought and thinking, what is it? And I thought, it's not the screen itself. It's not knowing that that screen won't take over their life, and that they won't end up, sitting in a dark room somewhere till early o'clock in the morning playing some games, rather than figuring out what it is and turning around in lives at some point and thinking, oh my god, where has the life gone? And if we implement some of these things early on, some of these very important habits, they are going to help us really go and enjoy a fulfilled life. So I realized that it was because the school wasn't necessarily fulfilling all those aspects. So yes, academics were there, and maybe there was a bit more aspect around mindfulness and being able to quieten down. And I've noticed that there are many more programs now in schools that are supporting this part, where we just go within a bit more. But it wasn't really giving them everything. So I got frustrated with the fact they spent 6 hours in school, and those 6 hours are not really giving them that value. When you feel like time is the only resource that is finite, like we run out of it and that's it. Money gets printed every day, or right now, digital money gets added every day. Everything else is abundant. It's time that we can't get back. So with that in mind, I was looking for something that could fill in the gap I felt there was, and I couldn't find anything that was suitable enough. I wanted the kids to be able to not only have the education, but also the freedom aspect. I always traveled with my children. I just love traveling myself. I feel like this is the best way to learn, to meet other cultures, to meet other people, and to really see how the world works, and just have a different perspective. And school in general, if you take the kids out, you then have to figure out a way of making up the lost time. Well, what if we can take school with us on the road, but without having to have the burden as a parent of being a teacher when if we're not qualified. So my school is also going to combine the aspect of academics and personal development, but also the flexibility of, if the parents want to homeschool part of the time, or if they want to take their kids on the road with them 2-3 months at a time, we will help them to bring the curriculum with them. We will support them in doing that. So none of that was available. And I thought, well, you know what? You're not crazy. You're just first. Let's just go and do it.
That. I love that. And I started hearing about people doing that when the pandemic hit. People were doing online school and decided, well, we might as well hit the road. And as long as we have an internet connection, we can get our kids doing their school and travel the world or the country or whatever in an RV or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's such a cool concept. And so what I want to get into next is, what are, the Thrive School is kind of stands for happy, healthy, and wealthy. How do you teach those things? Like, can you give us some examples that maybe a mom could even implement today?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's really funny because you said, happy, healthy, wealthy. Happy is really the for me the pillar, the main pillar of it all. Because even if we just start talking about health and wealth, if we're healthy, we have a million dreams. If we're not healthy, we just have one, right? We just want the health. We just want to feel better. We don't appreciate it on a daily basis sometimes. But when we're healthy, we also say, well, you know what? I want to do cool stuff. I want to be able to be around the people I love and visit places and do things. And for that, you need money. So wealth is important, but also wealth of experiences, wealth of passion, wealth of everything else around you. So when you build health and wealth, you and you are not fulfilled and you are not happy with it. What's the point of having all the beautiful health and the money that that you want to spend if you're not happy and fulfilled? And you see many people, many famous people who have technically all of it, actually not ending up very well. So health and wealth are important, but happiness is so much more important. And some of the things that I do with my own kids, and I feel that most parents can do, firstly, is give themselves, as the parents, the moms, the breathing space, just the pause to say, you are doing a great job, you're bringing another human to the world, right? This is magnificent. There's an odds of 1 to 40 million or something that someone will be born. So you giving that miracle to the world is amazing. And being able to help kids be kids, meaning turn the seriousness into fun. Tell your kids, do something fun, break your pattern. I always say that, I was even telling my kids this morning, I said, why is it that sometimes we get into the serious mode because we want to be responsible? So we go straight into seriousness. Well, why? Why do we do that? Because we've been broken, right? Since we were kids, we were being systematically broken to be listening and proper and everything. So give yourself the ability to have fun and to play and to just let go once every now and then. Because if you're looking at things from that perspective, you get more creative, you find solutions to things, you actually start to believe in the impossible. And how important is it to do that? Everything that has ever been invented in this world, or anything that's new, or anything that's a magnificent idea anyone came up with, was not from sitting there behind the desk writing down a ton of things. It was from playing, it was from thinking, what if impossible was possible? Even the word itself says it, I'm possible. So letting yourself do that, and as a parent being goofy with your kids, just, and if so, for example, if they are doing something that you think, oh my god, this is going to get me really angry or anxious in a minute, well, why don't you, instead of saying the F word that you probably want to say to yourself inside, just say something like one of those things that Tony Robbins teaches, turn it into fascinating. Isn't it
Right.
fascinating, right? or just do some random splurge of words that just break your own pattern. So what I mean by that is, as soon as we get serious or angry, we go into that spiral, into that tunnel. It's like the only thing that will break it is either someone screaming, or either someone slamming the door, or you having to go into a dark, quiet place, right? So if you instead just do something very random that breaks that pattern, that stops the spiral. And because you do that, you immediately, it's like being shaken. You immediately go, oh, hang on a minute, I don't have to do that. And then you can start laughing, you can start doing something different. And by you doing it, you teach that to your kids, because your kids don't do what you tell them. You know that as a mom, they do what you show them, right? And you can tell them 100 times, but you only show them once, and guess which one they will do, right? They will do exactly what you've shown them. So if you teach yourself and then show your kids that any behavior pattern can be interrupted, then you can always get out of that negative one and be up into the positive one. And isn't happiness about being looking at the bright side? Of course, there are always two sides, right? Anyone can see anything from any side. Right now, what you're seeing is what's behind me. I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing what's behind you and the background behind you. So our perspectives are very different. And so we can see anything from any perspective we choose to see from. And so to me, that very important pillar is that whole pattern breaking and the ability to bring yourself back up. And I feel like any parent can do that without really any tools, any extra time. It's just being aware, but not beating yourself up, because if you become aware, that's first step of change. You're aware, you go, oh, I just did this. I've identified it. Great. Okay, next time I can identify it and change it and break a pattern. And every time you do that, pat yourself on the back, because every time you did that, you've improved and you've shown your kids how to do it. And what is this going to do for them? Because it's not just going to keep them happy and smiling. This is going to internally change how they talk to themselves. This is going to internally change their perception, their positivity versus negativity inner talk. This is going to help them with ideas, with identifying solutions, with seeing more than the dilemma of two possibilities or two approaches. Oh, I'm gonna be sad, or I'm gonna be happy. It's gonna do so much more in for them other than this. So that pattern breaking does everything.
I love that. That is such a great tip that people can literally start today, right now. Now that you explained it, they can do it. And I can totally see that this is what's going to be taught in your schools by the teachers, and you're, guiding this process so that kids can learn that self-awareness at such a young age is so important, and learn how to interrupt their own pattern, change their state, celebrate, kind of get that dopamine little connection going so that they're more likely to stay in that higher level in the future. Because, like you said, that's where creativity comes from, kind of from that better, more positive state. That's where, one of my mentors, Joseph McLennan III, talks about options. And it's the word optimistic, people think just means like, oh, happy, fun, but it's really like when you're more optimistic, you're able to see what the options are and problem solve in a better way, because it's opening up kind of your vision, instead of when you're all mad, you're tunnel vision, and when you're happy, you're more open. Does that kind of summarize what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the same when you talk to someone, right? How big is your problem when it's in your head? It's not huge. It's big. It's the biggest. It's unsolvable. It's huge. When you share it with someone, even if you do what the web designers do, they often have rubber ducks. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but they have rubber ducks on their desktops, because what they do to those, they talk to them when they have a complicated problem. They're trying to write a code and they can't figure it out. The purpose of that duck is that it has a face, so they feel like they're talking to someone. So the minute you speak a problem out loud, that minute the problem shrinks, the amount of solutions just widens. So this is why it's so important to speak out loud, and not everyone can talk to themselves in a mirror. Not everyone feels like talking about everything to others. That's why people like coaches and mentors exist, and they do such a great job and move people on so much, because of that ability for someone to talk. So absolutely, this is exactly it. It's it's being able to change that instantly without going down the spiral. For another tip for parents, because that might not be for little kids yet, but maybe for teenagers. I remember that I got myself at some point into a place where I had been getting up in the morning and saying that I'm working on my mindset for an hour. And I literally called it, quote unquote, working on my mindset. Until at some point I realized I was wasting an hour, because I didn't have to work on my mindset. All I had to do is turn off, break the pattern of something that I was implementing in my own day to say, oh, I have to now figure out how to make myself feel better. So instead, as soon as my alarm rang, I did not let the little voice in my head speak. I went without thinking, had a cold shower. And that cold shower gets any voice out of your head, because all you
I
think
bet.
about is, it's freezing. And you know what? My mindset didn't need any work after that. And when I did that routine for a few times, this is brilliant, and it stops anything. And you can do that quickly, you can do that anytime. Another way to do it is go for a run, or just do a few jumps up and down. If you've got a trampoline at home, you can jump up and down on it a few times. You can play some goofy music. Any of that breaks your pattern, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
remembering that.
Yeah. And I love how what you're talking about is not just like an individual personal level of work, but it's also creating that culture within your home or your school where, so many of us kind of families that go to a traditional type school, we are kind of grinding out our days, right? Like we're exhausted, the kids are exhausted, all the driving and the activities and the homework and all that stuff, right? Like we kind of get beat down, and the teachers get beat down, and that's why they're all excited when it's Christmas break or spring break or whatever, because everybody needs a break, which is great. But it's kind of just like that overall vibe of the home or the school that I think, really sets into a child. Things are really fluid when they're little, as you know, and over time things become more of like an attitude where it's starting to settle in. It's almost like the concrete starting to dry, and then eventually those hit, really get solid, and those become your beliefs. So when you're a little kid, think about if your beliefs are, life is hard, life is stressful, or schoolwork isn't fun, or doing chores isn't fun, right? Because that's been your pattern over time. And so like this whole time, it's like you're saying, interrupt the pattern, make it fun, change your mindset. It doesn't have to take an hour of journaling or whatever. It can be in an instant, starting yourself in that new. And so it's like, think about as moms, the power that we have to instill these beliefs on our children. And though we may not be able to influence those of our school teachers and things like that, but we can at least set them up for a really positive day. And who knows, that might just be contagious in the classroom. Maybe that affects the other kids or affects the teachers. And you never know, it could, affect the school from the bottom up instead of from the top down.
Yeah.
So how are you going about finding teachers to hire for your school that embody your beliefs?
Oh my God, this is such a great question. And by the way, I must just stop here and say, I just had an aha moment with you sharing what you just shared. So this is brilliant. So you are saying, yes, we get into this pattern of almost like it being set for us, that we now jump into this hamster wheel of, now we're tired. But what if kids, which is what the school is doing in San Diego, what if the kids can actually get excited about what they're doing, and then the extracurricular activities will be the stuff that they want to do. It will be the things that they are really excited about, and because of that the families will be excited about, rather than, I'll sign you up for this because I have to fill your time somehow because I have to work, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, you might be excited about it, but you must go every week. Oh, I don't want to go. Oh, let's, and then there's the convincing, well, what if kids can be self-fulfilled? So this is wonderful. This is a wonderful way of saying it and showing it. But as far as the teachers are concerned, well, everything comes from talking to people, and everything comes from, for me anyway, the just the ability to make connections. I've always loved networking, and I've always loved really making genuine connections with people. And so when I set out on this mission, I just started attracting all the right people. And by having conversations, I eventually said, you know what, I'm having the same conversation with people. I must record this somewhere or put a website where people can go to and figure it out, because I'm running out of voice by saying the same thing. But I attracted some people who were saying, you know what, I'm going to help you. And actually, I have connections with teachers. They might not be in San Diego, but they will be somewhere else. And these teachers might have connections with someone else. So through that, so far, I have found the most amazing person who's an education specialist who helps homeschooling parents implement curriculum into their family lives. And she's a Tony Robbins person, and she's into personal development in general. So she's perfect. But in addition to that, I'm finding teachers by talking, but also right now we are advertising for the for parents to enroll their kids, but we're also advertising to attract teachers who are very much California registered teachers with a passion to do something different, get out of the box, and who are and have been on the personal development journey. So for me, the most important thing is for them to demonstrate it. And you can't fake it. It's not one of those things you can prepare for an interview and answer the right questions, because if you haven't been working on yourself and on changing some of your old beliefs, and because we all have them, on implementing something new, it would show in whatever you've done with life and however you are conducting yourself. And so this is so important to do that, because you talked about beliefs, and when we are aware of a pattern, we can break it. When we're not aware of a pattern, it takes someone else to see it to break it. And so those teachers have to absolutely be able to not only be on the journey to break their own patterns, because again, we don't have the ability to see everything, but the ability to keep going and to keep growing, because we know there isn't 100% we ever get to. We're always doing something more. But they have to have the ability to stop the lesson midway, or the class, or whatever experience they're doing with the kids, and help the kid break their pattern by noticing it externally. So, for example, a child might say something like, "This is not fair." Now, okay, what belief is that? So we stop maths or the science experiment before it all blows up, and we say, what is fair to you? What does that mean? And actually explore it. We can explore this with the class. If a teacher can do this, how many teachers do that in traditional schooling? Well, the answer is probably 0 to maybe 1 in the blue moon, because they all have to rush with the program. They are told to meet certain criteria. They have to fill in tons of paperwork, and they have their own beliefs. They would just hear fair as just one of those common things you say in your everyday life. I caught my mom the other day saying something to my kids as we're visiting. Money, you don't get anything for nothing, for free.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to stop that there and then, like I will have my teachers stop in the school. And I said, boys, look, this is Granny's pattern. It's her belief. Look, where can that belief lead you if you keep believing that? Where can that belief lead you if and although it probably wasn't a pleasant conversation I was having with my mom later, it was something to teach. And now we won't teach them everything and stop them from making mistakes, because that's not the point. The point is to actually help them enjoy making mistakes, help them enjoy growing and learning, and also not thinking that if they make a mistake then that's it, or there's a perfection. It's about saying there's a continuous never-ending improvement cycle. It's about helping the kids to notice and be curious and be excited and say, oh my god, I just broke another pattern, rather than, oh, I didn't do this well enough. That's a whole difference. So pattern breaking is very big. So those teachers have to have this ability to be in personal development, be into growth, and also curious about themselves and others, and about sharing their own personal journey. Because many people in positions of teaching want to be this person who has achieved it all, and they don't make any mistakes, and they know it all. Well, actually, that doesn't work like that. What works is sharing. You know what? We all make mistakes. We all learn from something. I don't know everything, but it takes someone really, really skilled to admit that.
Yes, totally. Oh, wow. This is awesome. And so how are you going about writing this curriculum? Like I'm hearing like all this common language. You and I come from similar backgrounds. You have spent a lot of times with Tony Robbins. I've trained under Tony Robbins a bit. And so it's very familiar to me. But how are you going about creating this curriculum for your school?
Okay, so this is cool actually, because when I came up with this idea, when I was so thankful that this frustration came over me, and decided to create a school, I said, okay, so how do I now, kind of make a little hole and then insert it into the kids' minds, or into the way it's taught. And I got help from someone absolutely amazing who has helped me figure out how to take my heart's content and pour it into something that can then be taught. And she did this wonderful work with me of saying, what cannot die within you? And I basically just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote by hand like crazy, everything that I have to convey that I have learned from, about life, about being happy, healthy, and wealthy. And then use my mind. So after my heart has done its job, I then said, okay, now head, turn on. And I categorized everything into the happy, healthy, and wealthy. So I ended up writing a book. And the book will also be available to parents. So whoever isn't in San Diego and cannot enroll their kids into the school is going to be able to buy the book and learn from that, and there will be lots of helpful tips. But in order to integrate the curriculum, because the book can help parents, it's great. The school needs to help kids also with academics. I recognize they're important. I recognize it's important to read and write and count and do all these things. However, not everything in the traditional curriculum right now is being taught in the right way. So what we are doing is we have been on the search of finding the perfect academic curriculum, meaning experienced, project-based, experiential learning, um, doing things that mean there are multiple answers, not just one, and it's not at the back of the book, and then merging that with the contents of my book. And so we are doing this through basically combining the way we teach the things we teach using the book. So the teachers will be trained on the contents of my book and the curriculum, and we will be starting with the happy aspect. And the first couple of months will be spent with very little academic curriculum, but very much for the kids to get to know themselves, to start embedding the culture, and to just really start putting together the way we teach the children. Because it's not about teaching them concepts. It's not like, you and I go to a personal development week or workshop or something, and because we already know some of these basic things like learn and write and count, we are not going to be learning those, but we are learning the concepts and we are learning to self-apply them. Now kids are not learning in this way. They are being programmed the first time at that age, right?
Yeah.
Program and reprogram. So this is about teaching them the curriculum, but in a way that is designed to stop and pause and say, what are the beliefs here? We might be reading a story, and the story might be about a little girl going on an adventure, or we might be reading the book Wonder, for example. This is a wonderful book to be able to actually use so many of these learnings about beliefs and motivation and self-drive, and so we will be implementing those aspects within the traditional curriculum in that way. But the basics are merging my book with the academic curriculum that we found to be so amazing, because there is no point of rewriting something, reinventing the wheel, because these amazing things do exist. It's how they're taught, not what is taught. That's a very subtle difference, but really a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I have to ask the title of your book so that people can find it.
Oh my God, the title is under wraps. This is well, it's not under wraps. There are so many things I'm thinking about doing. One of these things was one of the proposed titles was Bucking the System, helping your kids grow happy, healthy, wealthy. However, once the book is ready, I will definitely share the title. The book is coming out in March, on my 40th birthday, actually, which is going to be yes, it's going to be a very big deal. Yes, well, my publisher said let's make it come out on some meaningful date, and I was like, meaningful date, February or March next year, and then I thought, oh my God, what is more meaningful than turning another starting another decade? So because of that, I don't actually have a title yet, because I'm waiting for it to be one of those divine moments where I wake up or I'm in the shower and it just comes to me.
Yes. Oh, that's how I get all my ideas. It's always the most inconvenient spot too, when I can't like write something down. So I end up like, trying to voice record while I'm driving. Oh my gosh, I have something brilliant. And
Yes, I do the same. And you know what? I was actually sitting in a hot tub with someone, and we were talking about a podcast, and we were saying there was a group of us sitting, and we were saying, you know what? We were having this most amazing conversation about so many things. And I said, someone should record it. Why don't we have our phones here? Obviously, there's water. so we didn't. But we had the exact same idea. And I also said, you know what? I have my best ideas in the shower. Why don't we invent some sort of a magic thing that captures these things? Or why don't we just permanently stand in the shower and just keep coming up with these things, right?
Yeah,
This would be
that's fun.
amazing. So yeah, very
Okay, well, you'll have
answer
to keep
to,
us.
there is no title.
Yeah, okay, well, you're going to have to keep us posted because we'll link it in the episode for today's podcast, and that way people can find you. So, all right, any last thoughts, ideas, anything you want to share with the moms today?
So the number one thing I want to share is that what we must always remember is always to go from the place of love and from the place of faith, not the place of fear. Because if we go from, oh my God, there's something amazing out there, versus, oh my God, I've got to run away from the monster, you have a very different energy around you. So whatever you're trying to do for you or for the kids, go from the place of an absolute love and faith, and be self-loving, because you can't give from empty. And unless you think of yourself to think of others, then you're not going to be able to help anyone. I've been thinking about parents and how I can serve them, because one school in San Diego is not going to be the it. We are going to open more schools, and eventually we're also going to go online. I've also got programs for parents to help parents implement some of the things that I've talked about, and I'm teaching parents that. But I wanted to say, go on the search, and if something isn't there, and if you can't find it, be brave and create it for your kids. Because if you create it for your kids, they will thank you. They will be the biggest fan of you, and they won't tell you that, because kids never tell us this. But they will. You will see that when they grow up. You will see that in the behaviors they showcase in front of others, never in front of you, and you will do so much good to them. So always go from the place of service, because if you're serving others, if you're being the servant leader by serving your kids, you will gain so much more love and connection and perspective. If you're just having to bribe them with things, or if you're having to direct them and be the authoritarian, you might have a short win, but nothing more. So love yourself and love them. And that's what I would leave this with.
That's perfect. That's the perfect way to wrap us up. So thank you so much for your time. And I wish you the best with the Thrive School in San Diego. And I can't wait to see it grow throughout the country and the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura.
You're very welcome. Okay, bye. Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.